Hey kids, howdy, and welcome once more to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. We are here in the middle of October. It's the 13th, and it's kind of another quiet-ish week. I mean, like I explained last week, quiet ain't quiet, but there's less for me to talk about in a week like this in terms of like the big things.
Right.
That we have to deal with. So there's really just Venus changing signs, Pluto going direct. But first, like we often do, let us answer a question. This is written in by Maya. Hi, Dr. Lennox. I'm just, and then it's ... exhausted. I know I'm not
Okay.
the only one feeling this way, but I can't tell if it's me or if it's the energy in the collective right now. I'm 43, and I feel like I aged 10 years since January.
Preach.
Each week feels like a new wave of intensity, and I keep hearing about all these outer planet transits shaking things up. It all sounds so huge and unstoppable. So my question is, when's it going to stop? With exclamation question mark. But really, when the astrology is this big and the world feels like it's on fire, how can we work with these energies instead of getting flattened by them? Is there something practical or spiritual we can do to align with what's happening rather than just trying to survive it? Maya. Well, I don't know that there's any better question, for this moment. I'll start by saying, even though she made it clear that that wasn't her actual question, it's like, when's it going to stop? It's not. The world is at war, bona fide. We're all in. Enough, on the globe to look like a world war to me, although I'm not the one who gets to, just declare those things. And the outer planet shifts and their lineup this year and next year. How astrologers knew that there would be change like we've never seen before, revolutionary kind of change. So one thing that I'll say is just about big energy and bodies. Like, I experienced this so directly. I've said it so many times, people are probably rolling their eyes to hear me say it again. But what I experience in a huge way is something all of us experience. We are all just light. We are vibrating energy of light that is at its most dense point. We feel separate. We feel physical. We feel like, mind, muscle, bone, and skin, keep everything internalized. But it's not the case. We are participating with every ripple, which is why astrology is true. The planets move in reflection to the world. What an astrologer does is just match up what's happening. I call it the story and the energetic story. They're different, but they're telling the same story. So, physical tiredness at this time, on one hand, is absolutely happening because just think of it as the wind is blowing so hard that every walk is a fight, and nobody can stop the wind. All of us have to go to the store, and so there's a lot of pushing against the wind. I think that will diminish a little bit when there's just more pulling back from Neptune and Uranus moving into where they're going, that will slightly lighten up the air and fire combustion. But I don't know. These are unprecedented times, so I can't guarantee that. So the only real guidance I have, Maya, is I'm thinking of The Newlywed Game, a game show in the '70s where the prize was picked especially for you, they would say at the end, and that's what you have to look for in your own body, your own life, your own practice. What works for you best? Because
Sure.
there's not a secret. There's not like oh, if you do this, you will be emotionally regulated and grounded. No, you know, honey, at 43, you know what grounds you and what regulates you. I could say things like get your feet into the ground, make a lot of noise, make sure to meditate in the way that, speaks to you. Get good rest. Treat sleep as a sacred act of sleep hygiene. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but again, and Zoe will be like, wrap it up. Do what you do and do it more, and then try to do the mental switch of this is so hard to I got this. That's my answer. So it's another very slim week in terms of big astrological events, and we're coming out of a couple of months where that was not the case, and so that is making the entire month less vibrant with energy. But kind of like we just talked about, there is no such thing as quiet time, because often when the big wave diminishes, we recognize how overwhelmed we are, and the body will vibrate a little bit in those quiet times. And I think I should not use the word quiet, so much as, some other word that I'll figure out that'll convey what I mean by that. But so there's no such thing as a quiet day. But all I really want to talk about this week happens today. And one is Venus moving into Libra and Pluto going direct. Venus comes home with Libra. It's one of her ruling signs. This is the ruling sign of relationships. So I think it's really interesting that in Libra season, a full moon in Aries with the sun in Libra and a new moon in Libra that's coming, in 30 seconds. Everything that's, sort of the way the atmosphere is holding energy is all Venus ruled, and it's all about the reflection. It's all about relationships. It's all about how you recognize that what you're seeing outside of you does in fact start from within. And when Venus moves into this sign, it becomes much, much easier to roll with that, to accept that is true, especially if you have to look out and say, you mean that bonfire is somehow inside of me? It's like, yeah, on some level, every fire out there is in all of us. Venus has just come out of Virgo, which is ruled by both Mercury and Chiron. So be a great moment to look back on the last 3 weeks and see, what's shifted in how you relate to love, intimacy, friendship, money. It was a good opportunity for us in terms of healing. And then know that starting, whenever it happens today, I did not grab the exact time, but know that when you wake up tomorrow, you wake up into a world for the next 3.5 weeks. Love will be easier to feel. You might be drawn toward things that, are yummy in connection and relationship. And I think the world might soften the anger that's out there.
Okay, I
when
really
she moves
appreciate
into that.
that.
Well, we'll have to see. That might be overly hopeful. It might not be a powerful enough energy, but think about it. We all, on some energetic level, experience love through the lens of the archetype that the planet is in.
Yeah.
And so if the planet is in a sign that's about coming to balance, seeing the other side peacefully, and experiencing what happens when discord becomes stasis. So it's in our hearts for the next 3.5 weeks. We'll just see how much of a fight the grace and peace is in terms of, being overshadowed by the rage. Now, Venus is never that far away from the sun. Just like Mercury, both those planets being inside the Earth's orbit between the sun, then from our perspective, neither one can be terribly far. So it's wonderful that while our conscious awareness is still vibing in this beautiful mansion of balance, harmony, and love. In fact, next week we'll be talking about the new moon in Libra that kicks off an entire lunar cycle that's about balance, harmony, and sort of creating that personally so that when the sun moves into Scorpio 2 days later, that we've got a little bit of peace and harmony we can bring into the tumult that might come in Scorpio season. And just the fact that Venus has moved into Libra at a time when we all really just need a little peace, I'm grateful. Pluto is in Aquarius. In fact, today, Pluto is at 1 degree, 22 minutes of Aquarius, and he's going to turn around, station, and go direct today. Interesting to me that in the rhythm of the outer planets and their movement, kind of reflecting all of this fast and chaotic change, I think it's interesting that the two planets that are reflecting the most vibrant, fiery responses to the world at large is Uranus and Neptune. Uranus, because that's the fast, sudden, anything can happen and probably will planet. And Neptune brings the fire in Aries, but that lights up our sense of beliefs and what drives us from inspirational places. And in the sign of war, there's just a lot of fire behind what people believe. They are both retrograde already, which means both fast change and fiery beliefs are slightly diminished in the last couple of weeks from a retrograde experience. In fact, this is where retrogrades count for me, which is in the outer world, as opposed to something you need to hear about on a Tuesday to see if it's a good day to, like, do this or that. So we're pulling back from a lot of overwhelm and fast fires, but the planet that digs deep and sort of creates a new landscape because it's, changed everything. Pluto is going to start moving forward as Uranus and Neptune move back. I'm not entirely certain why I'm even sharing this. It just grabs me as I'm looking at what's happening to sort of represent some level of archetypal movement that wants to be, spoken about by me. Because the truth is, I don't know. We've never been in such a case. There's no rules about certain outer planets moving in one way and Pluto moving in a different way because they've just, finished a bonfire party. I'm always searching for the hope. And so I'm hoping that sort of plays out. We still have a little bit before Neptune and Uranus get to Pisces and Taurus. We'll be looking at this over the next 5-6 episodes to see if indeed the fall months into winter change the dynamism of the hot summer. So when I was 8 years old, I got bit by the theater bug. There had been some plays, musicals done. In my grade school, Mrs. Bauman, she was into that, and I had her for both 3rd and 4th grade. And playing the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz just sort of lit up. So the day that I did my first show, I'd gotten this space. I got my sister and Lydia Shue and Lisa Jagir to sort of play this cat story from a book, and it lasted 55 seconds. And so I was panicked, so I went out front and I said, well, that was so fast, we're going to do it again. So in the spirit of that, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that it's a slim week on the podcast to talk about the lunar cycle. The fast rabbits will already know all of this, and this is for people who are really looking to learn. The moon and the tides and the water that the earth has, really do shift and move. There's a lot of hubris in science that would like to say, no, 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 that can't be. Just because you're 70% water doesn't mean that the moon tides you. It doesn't, because tides are a very specific physical phenomenon that's about the water sort of being pulled out and then the orbit of the Earth, the spin of the Earth moving through it every day. We are 70% water. The moon does pull on us. We are twisted around every 28 and a quarter days. There isn't a woman in the world who doesn't know this in their body from the time they hit puberty, because that cycle is directly tied to the lunar cycle. So it's incredibly valuable to know the different segments of each lunar cycle, because you can work with that. You can set intentions and follow them around the lunar cycle, even if that intention is to be more connected to the shifting tides of life, so that when life is taking you to someplace intense, you're less likely to feel like it's happening to you. By looking at the lunar cycle and connecting to the moon that's inside of you, you start maybe living as if life is happening through you. You got to know waxing and waning. Waning means ending. That's how I always remembered it, because waxing, whatever, you're doing something, you're putting some wax on. And then, I don't know, waning intuitively sounded like a word we sometimes use to talk about diminishment. So the waxing of anything is as it's getting to its peak, and in this case, the new moon to the full moon. The cycles you won't recognize instantly is crescent moon, gibbous moon. The crescent moon you've seen in the sky, the moon's a crescent. That's one of the cycles that sort of brings a little bit of hope. The gibbous moon sort of refines and adjusts things, and there's a difference between the waxing and the waning. That's to know in order to, follow me what I'm about to sort of take you on a journey with. So new moons, beginnings, we plant seeds. Sun and moon on the same side of the earth is literally dragging all the water in the earth down into the ground. So farmers always planted seeds in the new moon because the life force is going down. So we do the same thing. This is feminine in nature because it's dark, it's fertile, and the best time to set intentions, with seeds as the analogy, is when it's darkest and most fertile. So 3.5 days later, you'll start to see the peaking of the waxing crescent. Waxing means building, crescent because it's, looks like a crescent. This is where hope comes, motivation comes, right? We plant our seeds, and then a little time passes. The hope comes from, oh, look, she's back. The moon left, now she's back. Week after the new moon is the first quarter. There are 2 quarter moons, and both of them are the crisis moments. The geometry is 90 degrees. It's a square. Squares are conflict and obstacles. So conscious awareness and the unconscious that was just hanging out together for a minute, supporting the seeds, says, oh, wait a minute, I'm not sure I like all the seeds you planted. Some of them have to go, and oh, I love those. Those will grow, right? And so if you put seeds, literal seeds, in the earth and watered them, 7 days later, they'd crack open. That's the crisis. Some of them would begin to germinate, and that's what we would turn towards, and the ones that failed to thrive, we just let go. Then we move another 3.5 days to the waxing gibbous. So the gibbous is a little bigger. It's not quite full, but it's bigger than the quarters. And it's about refining, adjusting, editing, last-minute changes, because the next one is the full moon, right? And that's the culmination, the harvest, the thing we build, the flower of our efforts. And this is the masculine moment. So in fact, when the new moon is in the same sun sign as the full moon, we have a sort of typical feminine, masculine order of the sign. But after this new moon in Libra, that's all going to change. And you're going to get, in terms of the sign and the consciousness of moving through a mansion, it's going to start with a sense of masculine action and then drop into feminine energy 2 weeks later. I'll say more about that as those things happen. When I talk about the first quarter, I always talk about the need to sort of put your new wisdom out into the world. And where that comes from is the piece of cycle right before that, because halfway between the full moon and the last quarter or the third quarter is the waning gibbous. Waning means coming down out of the fullness, but still that same sort of plumpness of the gibbous that's gone in the crescent. So this is about sharing and integrating and putting stuff out there. It's kind of like if you harvest in the full moon, you have a feast a little bit later and share your bounty. Then when we get to the third quarter and the crisis that is, from the 90-degree angle, then you can think of that disseminating moon, which pushed you into the crisis of the last quarter, as being the guiding sort of energy of what that quarter is demanding of you. 3.5 days after that quarter, we get to our waning crescent. The moon is slipping away again. The sun is grieving. This is the dark of the cycle. It's also sometimes called the balsamic moon. This is about turning within, resting, preparing for what happens 3 days later, the alpha omega of the next lunar cycle. Remember that this is archetypal work, right? We're not living lives where we intend something on a Thursday and, 14 days later it's harvested and we give it to our neighbor and we start again. It's not literal. But the mechanism of having ideas, building them, refining and distributing them, and coming back again is a cycle that fits into everything, including the day. You wake up, you feel hopeful, you hit that morning, caffeine thing, then it's high noon, you deliver what you did that day, and then you come home and you go to sleep. The one that everybody understands is the binary. 1, 0, in breath, out breath, up, down. We divide everything into binary, and then because we understand that, we can create digitally in the two-dimensional world with great power and efficacy. And so the power of the binary is that when you know how we create, you can create magnificent things. So by understanding any cycle and how it replicates other cycles that are smaller and bigger, so that, you can sort of take it in and understand it. The way I say it is, I'm going to set intentions on the new moon because the solar system is doing that. You go to the intention setting party when it's the new moon, and you throw yourself an energetic feast when it's the full, because I believe that doing so locks you into step with how existence in the universe is unfolding. We'll finish off today talking about something that hasn't quite arrived, but that's being hinted today. It's like Taylor Swift has put her Easter egg out. Jupiter in Cancer is so happy to be there. It's the perfect place for the planet of manifestation to sort of give us everything we want, sort of ordered up. Mars and Mercury and Black Moon Lilith are all in Scorpio right now, getting ready to sort of join very close to the degree point that Jupiter is at, 23, so that by the time we get to the last week of this month, there's a trine between body and mind with this expansive, yummy manifestation energy of Jupiter in Cancer. And then as they all move a little bit further, they will catch Saturn in Pisces, generating a grand water trine that has both social planets in it. I, of course, will be saying a whole lot more about this when we get there. But if you're listening to this episode on the day it came out, Monday the 13th, The Cancer moon is conjunct Jupiter, triggering this beautiful manifestation-oriented trine that's gonna be building in earnest for the rest of the month. That's something to know and start anticipating today before the moon leaves Cancer. Just do a little quiet turn within and say, I am ready to birth the most magnificent creations, which I will then share with the world who wants the best from all of us to be lifting the vibration up, helping us find world peace at last. Have at it.
Did you know that Michael has a daily astro alert? If you enjoy hearing the weekly astrology, you might like knowing more about each day. When you subscribe for the daily astro alerts, you'll get an in-depth explanation of the day's astrology sent right to your email. Subscriptions are only $10 a month, or you can purchase the yearly subscription at the reduced price of $100. To subscribe, head over to michaellennox.com. All right, it's dream segment time. Every week, Dr. Michael will interpret dreams that are sent in via email or take a live caller. If you would like your dream interpreted on the podcast, you can go ahead and email us at dreams@michaellennox.com. Hopefully your dream will make it onto the show. This week, we have Veronica calling in from Minnesota. Hey, Veronica, what you dreaming?
Hey, hi, thanks for having me. Yes. So let me preface this dream by saying I'm a flexitarian, meaning, yeah.
Please define.
All through high school and college, I was a pescatarian, so I ate fish, but not poultry or red meat. I went back to red meat and poultry, cut out the red meat, did poultry and fish and all those things. Nowadays, I eat as vegan as I can.
Okay.
And so, but once in a while I eat fish. So that kind of goes along with the theme of the dream. So
I figured.
Yeah. I had a very vivid dream recently, and it started that I was going to an outdoor music concert, although I don't know who was playing, with my family. And it was nothing fancy. Like, we were at plastic tables with those 10 by 10 pop-up shade tents. But before, but before the concert, we had to, like a wedding, give what we were eating for our meal. And the dinner was included in this concert.
Choosing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the choices were beef or fish. So even though I never eat beef and I rarely eat fish, I said, let me keep this simple and I'll just order fish. So it was kind of funny because it wasn't fancy, but these waiters came out in white and black, tuxes, and they served me a fish on a styrofoam bowl. This fish was a full fish, and I'm staring at it, realizing it's slightly moving and slightly breathing. And so
Not that flexitarian, are you?
No, definitely not. And my reaction was, oh, I can't eat this. There's no way I cannot eat this. I found the wait staff and I said, I'm really sorry. I cannot eat this. Can you please find me a vegetarian meal? And they were like, okay. They took the fish, and I'm waiting. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And as I'm waiting, I'll spot a waiter and I'll go, oh, hey, any updates on that meal? And I'm getting very hungry. And I start to see desserts start to get served. And I'm like, interesting. So I get up and I take a little walkabout, and I see a family with Jimmy John sandwiches. And I noticed that they had fish and they moved it. So when I got back to my table, there was another live fish sitting at my table. And I took the fish and I stormed to this family and I was like, I cannot take this. Take your fish back. And I remember being very upset. And a weird part of the dream was I discovered that they would put these fish that people would not eat up in a tree for the birds to peck at. So I go back to the waitstaff and I'm like, where, can I have this meal? Like, I'm really hungry. It should have come out by now. One woman says to me, well, you're going to have to leave the premise and go get a sandwich. And then she turns around and walks away. And there was no speak of how do I come back into the festival? Are you going to pay for it? So I kind of gave up. And then a friend of mine, one of my best friends, was at the same concert. And she goes, hey, didn't you check out the buffet tent? And I was like, a buffet tent? What are you talking about? Nobody told me there was a buffet tent. So as I get to this buffet tent, I see the dinner coming out and all these beautiful desserts. I think the detail of these desserts was insane. I mean, frozen cheesecake on a stick dipped in chocolate, chocolate covered strawberries, cake, pudding, all the things. And I then woke up very hungry and very, and I physically wasn't hungry when I woke up, but in my dream, I was so hungry that I woke up.
Well, I mean, ultimately, while this dream is certainly reflecting your relationship to food and choices of food and, where you might be at this time in your life, I don't really think at the end of the day it's about food.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that's interesting to me is that you start off by telling us how flexible you are, but who's feeding you is black and white.
Mm-hmm.
The waiters in black and white sort of have the warrior instinct where everything is either right or wrong. Right? So we're in this world moment where this is sort of almost a setup for the reflection of what's happening outside in the world, where no matter how flexible any of us want to be, no matter how healthy we want, where vegan represents a kind of purity of walk. Right? It's not about vegan food for my purposes. You can chat with your friend about how it's about your diet, but for me, it's about wanting to walk flexibly, wanting to walk in a way where you're doing no harm, and then so there's this family piece, right? So it's like going to be something about who you are as a result of who you've been. What do you suppose is like the plastic setup mean with regard to your family if there's an association for you? Like, why not fancier?
I don't know. Well, it's interesting that you say that. This is like going away I never even expected, but it kind of makes sense. I'm very much the activist in my family. And I am the one who's aware of what's going on in the world, very upset by things going on in the world. And I do get upset when my family will use plasticware.
Oh, okay, got it.
If we could do something more sustainable. We're not fancy people either.
Got it. Perfect. That's a personal association of the plastic that would be much richer than anything that I might come up with. Right. And it doesn't also feel as important to me as the idea of what's feeding you. How are you feeding yourself? Who's feeding you? Is it your parents' idea, which seems very not real? Plastic doesn't feel organic and real. Right. So in an activated personality with activism, it's like it is black and white at this point for you. And that's how you need to feed yourself. Even though it has got some kind of contradiction in your relationship to your family or any other confusing thoughts that might be in there because it's such a crazy time.
Wow.
Now, fish, fascinating. If I just go to the most universal sensibility that come up for me with fish, it's about ideas that swim in the unconscious. Where with beef would be very sort of grounded, practical, heavy almost. So at the end of the dream, it's about desserts. Did you have any feeling about like, where's the main meal? Was it exciting that dessert was coming?
No, I mean, I was pretty upset that I didn't get my main meal. Like,
okay, got it. That's important. That's important. in the spirit that everything that happens in a dream is ultimately for you,
Mm.
that you can't get your main meal has to be somehow for your benefit, even if it's to sort of examine things like, where does my empty belly take me?
Hmm.
I can also think of like not eating and not feeding being a kind of activist's, perspective of, wanting a world where all people are cared for, and you're sort of taking that on in a way in this dream by being in a situation where you recognize you're in the mode of my needs aren't being met. I can't feed myself. Groceries are too much. I'm scared about what's happening in the future. I mean, I may be pushing too much politics on this, but you said you were an activist, honey. And so
Yeah.
that's got to be big in your, psyche right now is not being flexible, not going to the buffet. Now that I know how you felt about not getting your meal, that buffet is the bullshit that's being served out there in the world that people are gobbling up because it's yummy, delicious as fuck. But it
Hmm.
has no nutritional value, and that is not what you're up to. You're up to sustaining yourself so you can activate.
Hmm.
And so if the fish is a little bit alive and we remove the am I going to eat you or not from the symbol of it, it's speaking to me somehow of that some idea that's in you isn't dead.
Mm.
And maybe in the unconscious examination of the family distance from your current vision, that the fish is an idea of being your own unique self, swimming in your own direction, that in the family dynamic might feel like it's, it can't swim in those oceans. It can't, it
Yeah.
can't live there. But it's still alive, which means ipso facto, if you threw it in some water, it would probably like resurrect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least symbolically, that's my hopeful sense. I mean, I'm sure lots of people would say, well, then it's going to die. But I think the dreams are always for us, and they're telling a story. And to me, it's a more interesting, likely next step in the story if the fish is a little bit alive and you are clearly objecting to the bullshit that you can. Listen, you can either put the fish back into the water somewhere where it lives, or you can take it and, put it where you're planting some nice, like, vegetables because they're great fertilizer.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
is it dynamic between you and your family now, or is it sort of understated or unspoken?
We have a split family with our
Yeah,
viewpoints, and then
yeah,
to avoid conflict, we try not to go there.
right. What's Jimmy John Sandwiches? I'm assuming it's a local chain.
Yeah, it's a big chain that it's mostly meat. I not to get, too into it, but I know that the owner is like a big African trophy hunter, so it's something that I don't
Okay,
love.
right there. I don't know. We don't need to spend much time on that. It's just a
Yeah.
reinforcement of I'm not eating that either.
Sure, it was weird that it
Right.
was like this specific brand. Can't quite wrap my head around it, but it might just be for I don't know.
Part of the unused fish to do something, productive with is that in your bird, they go up to the intellect. They feed new ideas.
Hmm.
Right? So now that I see that in my notes, I get it. Oh, the fish is your fish dives along with all the other ones. At any rate, the point then of the fish is that it's an old way of swimming that actually is feeding your new ideas that are taking off in the form of birds that are fed by you letting something sort of die and then something in your voice is getting awoken or born again.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Last thing is who's the friend? Best friend.
Yeah. In the beginning of the dream, I had no idea she was there. So it wasn't until she kind of swooped in. We've had a over 10-year relationship. We've
Hmm?
been through some hard times together.
But not now.
No, we communicate often, but we're not going through hard times right now. But she's like a sister to me, someone I can kind of lean on, someone who's saved my butt in the past.
Then her sort of pointing out the buffet then is interesting to me, right? It's not her dream, it's yours. So she's a part of you that, well, like if I just asked you, forget about all that, data you gave me. If I just said, give me like 2 or 3 adjectives that describe her energy.
Intense, chaotic, but driven.
Okay, so now we remove her from the dream, and now we look at the chaotic, intense part of you probably needs to sort of restrain a little bit, because that part of you is like, well, try the buffet. Did you see it? That it's not quite on track to wherever you're going next. Which is like, I gotta feed myself, but not from that. And there's a part of you that's kind of ready, but not strong enough to actually, I think, make a difference in where you go next. But always valuable to have something that shows up as holding the resistance, holding, and if it's your best friend, then there's something safe about that as an image.
Cool.
For me.
Yeah. That's super interesting. I'll add this detail that we met because of work and career, and I'm going through a career change. So I was a circus performer, and I would trick ride on horses and traveled the whole country. My last tour, I roped her in, and we went on tour together, had a lot of hardships. She's into the horse thing. I'm into the horse thing, but my business is changing. I no longer perform. I rarely trick ride myself. I teach it, and I'm taking more of a activism stance, toying with the idea of a nonprofit, rescue work, anti-horse slaughter, that kind of whole thing.
And even more clearly, that's what she's representing in the dream, is that old, more flexible part of you that's like, yes, I'm an activist, but it doesn't have to be, all the time.
Yeah.
And except now, it really does. It really does. I mean, I've been shouting this since, the end of last year, that we all have to get activated, whatever your role is. And your role can be sitting at home and praying for the world. That's activism if you do it. Yours needs to be a little louder at the moment, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Oh, you hit the nail on the head, actually.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like, yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
Well, go out there and change the world, Veronica.
Okay. I will try. Do my best. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. You can find us on Apple Music, the iHeartRadio app, and anywhere you find your favorite shows. Head on over to michaellennox.com for information on astrology readings, the Daily Astro Alert subscription, upcoming classes, and to join the mailing list.